In this lesson, we will be discussing how to chop up loops from various audio files and use them to build out a track. The loop I will be using for this song is called the Amen break sample. This loop has been used in over 3,000 songs, most notably NWA's Straight Outta Compton. Let's take a listen to the beat using Logic's media browser. You can listen to any sample by clicking and holding anywhere on the waveform. I'm going to bring this into my session by dragging it onto the current track. This sample is over 20 seconds long, but I only want to use a small portion of it. I want to cut out my own loop and build my track from it. Let's listen to the beginning of this sample, which is the entire Amen break loop. This sample is 4 bars long, but some of the sample is syncopated and can be tricky to loop. I want to use only the second bar of this sample. Let's listen to see if we can visually see where bar 2 begins. Now that I have a general idea of where bar 2 is, I'm going to use my marquee tool to help me edit. First, I'm going to go to my Preferences drop-down menu, General, then the Editing tab, and I'm going to check the box that says Marquee Tool Click Zones. This lets me utilize the marquee depending on where my cursor is. When the cursor is on the top half of the region, it is the Pointer tool, which lets me select and move regions. But when I'm in the bottom half, it turns into the Marquee tool, which looks like a cross. If I click on the main window, it places a gray line that I can use to select parts or even start playback. This tool is also great for editing and finding transients. Transients are sharp peaks at the beginning of waveforms, such as the attack of a kick drum or the pluck of a guitar string. It's always best to make audio edits at the beginning of a transient. Sometimes it's difficult to zoom and locate these transients, but Logic can help us do that. I will click with my marquee tool and then use the left and right arrow keys to move between transients. Once my marquee line is at the beginning of the second bar in the sample, I'm going to press Delete to make a cut. I now have the beginning of my loop. Let's now try to locate the end of the loop, which would technically be the beginning of bar 3. I'm going to click again with my marquee tool. Press the right arrow to move to the correct transient, and press Delete. I have now separated my loop. I can now get rid of the remaining regions that I don't need. To confirm that I actually have a perfect loop, I will select the region and press Command-U to cycle the area. Let's listen. You can hear that this loop does not feel smooth. It feels like it's jumping ahead. That's because I did not accurately select a good loop. This is an important step to creating loops. The beginning of the loop starts on a kick drum, which is exactly what we want, but the ending is a little bit off. Let's use our trim tool to extend the region to the next kick drum. I'm going to press Command-U again to loop this longer selection and take another listen. That sounds like a clean loop, where you can't tell where the repetition is. You can use the trim tool as much as you need to fine-tune your loops. Now I'm going to move this loop to the beginning of my session. As you can see, the loop is 1 bar long, but it doesn't actually take up 1 bar in my session. That's because my session is set to 120 BPM, but this audio sample is a different tempo. When importing audio samples from outside Apple's loop library, know that samples do not automatically conform to the session tempo. What we need to do is figure out the tempo of this loop and have Logic change the session for us. To do this, I'm going to tell Logic how long this loop is by selecting it using the cycle. This region is 1 bar long, so I will select 1 bar in the cycle. Next, I will select the region, go to the Edit drop-down menu, Tempo, and select Adjust Tempo using region length and locators. Logic will analyze this 1-bar loop and change the tempo. You can see that the region now takes up 1 bar in the main window, and the tempo is 137.6. My session is now at the correct tempo, and I can start to build out my tracks. First, I want to repeat this loop for the entire session. I can either use the loop function, or I can use the repeat function to repeat the region over and over. Now it's time to start adding tracks. Let's import another loop. I'll bring in the drum loop next. Let's hear how this sounds. You can hear that the new loop falls out of time with my drum loop, which means it's at a different tempo. It's very easy to match loops to a tempo if you know the length in bars. The first thing to do is analyze how many bars this new loop is. Let's listen again. If we count quarter notes, this loop is 4 bars long. To make it match the tempo, I can use my trim tool. If I add Option while I'm using it, it turns into a different tool called a time stretching tool. Let's hold Option and drag this region to make it 4 bars. Logic has now time stretched this region and should be in time. Let's listen. Let's bring in another loop. Let's listen to the synth bass loop. This loop has the same problem. Let's hold Option and trim it to 4 bars. Our track is coming together. Let's add our synth loop. If we listen to this loop, we will notice that the second half is different than the first half. When choosing loops, you can use any sections you want as long as you keep track of the bar numbers. I want to use the first 2 bars of this loop. Another trick of the marquee tool is that it makes it very easy to cut regions. Remember, I always want to make a cut at a transient, so I want to make a cut at this synth hit. I can simply double-click with the marquee tool and it will make a cut. I can get rid of the other section and time stretch this region to 2 bars. Now I can repeat this region and I have a new looped synth part. Editing audio to make loops or chop up samples is crucial in today's production. Now you can edit with the best of them and get creative.